Dr. Thomas?
Sorry.
Every time. We'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. It's 7 and we'll get the meeting started. At this time, we're going to stand and say the pledge, and after the pledge, Dr. Combs is going to lead us in prayer. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's all pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day that you've given to us. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be here and to enjoy your creation, Lord. We want to pray a special prayer that you continue to be with the family of Alex, our student at Covington High School, and the whole Covington High School family, and the community and everyone that supported each other during the tragic loss of Alex, Lord. We thank you so much for the many wonderful blessings that we have, for the opportunity to be here and serve this community. Pray that you will help us to make good decisions, wise decisions, and that you will be with us. Please help us to count on our blessings, Lord. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Appreciate you, please. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion by Mr. Davidson, second by Mr. Clark. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And are there any additions to the agenda? Next item is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any item for discussion? Do we have a motion to approve it? So, motion by Mr. Shipley, second by Mr. Clerk. And those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passed. Dr. Combs, update, superintendent update.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So first off, let me say how much I and Alex's parents appreciate the outpouring of support for the Covington High School family during the recent tragic loss. This young man will sorely be missed in the halls of Covington High School as he leaves behind a legacy of humor, of friendship, and spirit. Even the usually friendly rivalry between county high schools was paused so that they could send their love to Covington High School and show their support in the last couple of weeks. Second, I've had a few questions regarding our policy 6.204, which I've included in your folders this evening, which allows out-of-district students to pay tuition and come into the county. Next year will be our third year for this process. As y'all know, this policy was passed a couple years ago, and we've seen increases in money from the state where we received none prior to implementing this action. So by offering a tuition on top of that state funding, lower than what some of our surrounding counties are charging, we're attracting those students here, which I'm just an English teacher, but it seems like pretty simple math to me. Here's an example. Today we had a parent call who lives in Bolton, but wanted her children to go elsewhere. Arlington's tuition is $2,000 on top of their state funding. Our tuition is $750 on top of our state funding. So guess who she'll probably pick? This $750 tuition plus the $6,800 or so that we get from the state means close to $8,000 per child, where we previously had an empty chair and no revenue. This year we've enrolled about 55 students from out of district. So, contrary to some recent social media posts, this does not cost taxpayers a dime. Actually, those families will probably stop and get something to eat on the way, which will also contribute to Tipton County sales tax revenue. So this is just going to be revenue. It's not going to cause any other issues. But I know that I've had a couple people call and ask me that today, and it was because of the tweet that we sent out yesterday, which just at this time we're accepting those enrollments through, I believe, the 29th of April, like we do the last couple of years. And so I think that generated, because of the word now in there, it made it sound like we're all of a sudden starting it, but we've been doing that. And we're getting revenue from those. So just to make sure, does any of you have any questions about that? I know we've talked about it. I know you passed it a long time whenever we, passed the policy, but I just want to make sure that there isn't any confusion about that. Okay. Next, construction projects will be in full swing this summer. Hunter's going to speak more about that in just a minute. Just making sure you're here. Okay, scared me. I looked around and didn't see you there for a second. because I don't have all the deadlines down that you do. In order to stay on track with our ESSER funding deadlines, the bathroom renovations will be underway, as well as concrete work outside at Munford Elementary and Munford High School this summer. So summer school for Munford Elementary will take place at Munford Middle School. That will be June the 6th through July the 1st. Dr. Jones has graciously allowed our students from Munford Elementary to come up there and use a wing of their building for summer school. The Munford Elementary SACC site will be closed, and those students will have the option of attending either Atoka Elementary, Brighton Elementary, or Austin P Elementary for SACC this summer. Because of the multiple construction updates being done at Munford Elementary, there'll be a number of construction workers in that building. We could lose water, we could lose power, so that's why it's going to be closed this summer. I've already spoken with Dr. Cope, the principal there, and she's all good with it because, of course, this means when she comes back, they're going to have new bathrooms, HVAC systems, concrete work in the front, and so she's excited about that. But I just wanted to give y'all a heads up in case you hear anything. Hunter may talk more about that in a little bit, but does anyone have any questions about those? Basically, the only school that will be closed would be Munford Elementary School, and those kids will go to summer school at Munford Middle, and of course an administrator from Munford Elementary will go there with them, so they'll be there. Should be pretty seamless. Yes, sir?
Where are the SACC kids going again?
They will have a choice, and Dr. Cope is sending out a letter to parents, but they will have a choice to go to Atoka Elementary, Brighton Elementary, or Austin P Elementary. Yes, sir. Anybody else have a question there? Alrighty. And then lastly, I've been mentioning to y'all the last couple of years, and then during the development of our strategic plan, that I think my office needs a position that's dedicated to workforce development. That is tracking our students' successes after high school, interacting with community leaders, and then keying on other needs that our kids will see post-high school. We've been talking about that for a little bit. I know I brought it up to you as well. But now I think is the time to add that position. With Ford coming, with a number of our community pieces, we're really increasing our CTE offerings in the schools. I think now is the time to add that position. I'm in the process of working on a job description, and I also have a few ideas as to who I would like to see fill that role. However, because it's a new position, the first step is tonight that I need to ask the board for your approval because it's a new position. It is not going to be, and I'll let Mr. Billy talk about this later, it won't be an addition monetarily to the budget. We think we've worked out a way, I don't have a mouse in my pocket. The magician over here, as we think we've worked out a way that we can make that and be like a zero additional cost and move that by switching some duties around possibly. But I would need y'all's approval for that, but before a vote, please ask me if you have any questions about it. The position, I haven't named it yet, but it's basically going to be a workforce development. The counselors will work with this person, and they're really, I'm really excited about this. Only a few systems in our area have anything like this. And with our increase, we were just at TCAT signing today. A number of our students who are moving on through that. We just want to be able to give them support, track those kids, find out what we're doing, add more programs if necessary, interact with community leaders. Of course, Ford's going to be a big one coming. And I just need someone who can do that full time, quite frankly.
What method do you plan on them tracking this development of our students?
This person, whoever it is, he or she will meet with them like while they're still high school students, and then follow them afterwards, like, know where they're going to go. And then by tracking, I know a lot of times when we say tracking, that kind of raises the dam around a lot of folks. That's right, yeah, we're not going to tap anything. But he is going to keep track of them, through email or through interactions with the colleges or the TCATs or the workforce where they go, so that we can get a better idea of where our kids are going and what they're doing and what we can do to help support and have them go where they want to go. So that's what I mean by track. That's a good question. Yes, sir. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
How will you get this data to the schools or principals and counselors, and how will we get that to them?
Another good question. So my plan is for this person to have every other month meetings with high school principals, with counselors. I believe we have one in the room, there she is, with our counselors, and then give us updates at our principals meetings as well. And that's how that data is going to come across. And this person is also going to the school buildings a lot. especially high schools. The other thing that we want to start trying to add, we want to start trying to add CTE programs to our middle schools. We've got to have feeder programs for those CTE pieces, and we need to start at the middle school. Quite frankly, we need to start it sooner than that. But middle school, we can start adding those things. And that TISA funding, you know, that is still in legislation they're talking about, the more CTE concentrators you have also means the more funding you get from the state as part of that funding model. So obviously we have a number of CTE concentrators right now, but we want to increase that, not just for them, but also because it'll bring more money to the district as well.
So we're gonna be looking at like more intern opportunities for students, is that gonna be part of this job?
That's one of those, yes, sir. Some mentorships, intern opportunities, we're looking at all those, you know, because we have some workforce things right now that we're doing, but I think this will increase that, yes, sir.
What about this person having collateral duty of keeping an eye on teachers and why they're coming and why they're leaving, and would that be workforce development as well?
We're actually working on that in HR right now, that we're starting to develop some more things, but this position can definitely help that, yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely.
I'll be honest, I'd like to see us tailoring our core classes to CTE students. So, you know, if you have students that are interested in nursing, their math is revolving around that kind of math.
Yes, sir.
And so I'd like to see, you know, when I was in school, you could go career path or a technical path, college path,
Right.
or dual.
Mhm.
So something kind of along those lines.
Absolutely. We've also heard, and Dr. Bird, correct me if I'm wrong, we've also heard that the State Department and some others have talked about bringing back work keys. Remember work keys, y'all? It was a great test. I mean, ACT made the test. It was a great test. And that was the technical path test. Remember, we had
Yeah.
university technical dual path.
And
right?
ASVAB.
And ASVAB was a military test, and ASVAB's a good test.
Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, we've heard that may be coming back, you know, that we can use that a little bit. And the other part about getting them early in the middle school is that, you know, they're not surprised when they get to the high school, right? And all of a sudden, wait a minute, what's this? What's this nursing program about? What's ag about? What's culinary arts about? What's this welding thing? They've already heard about it in the middle school, and they've already started tracking and convincing their parents that this is what I want to do. And so we can start looking at those things earlier too, which would help in the exact situation that you brought up just a minute ago.
Yeah, I just think you're gonna get kids more interested in these subjects. ACT is a fine test, but if every class is teaching ACT and this kid's not planning on going to college,
Then it's a waste.
we're wasting their time.
That's right. I agree. I agree.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
I agree.
Of course, that's a state mandate right now, as it stands.
Oh,
We don't have a
look,
choice.
I'm not shooting the messenger. I just think there's some things we could do. A, I really like the idea. B, I hope this idea transforms the way that we're educating our students. That we're building classes that are gonna, you know, math classes that are gonna tailor to what they're interested in and not just the ACT. I get every kid's gotta take the ACT. But I also get being bored in a class that really
Right.
isn't going to benefit you in the future.
That's right. And I'll tell you.
In their mind.
A number are pushing against that too, as far as the ACT being required for every single child. You know, we're pushing back against that a little bit too, and to implement like the work keys and those tests, and so.
What keys are fourth key?
Both.
Well, we could take the ASVAB. If you didn't want to take the ACT, when we were in school, you could take the ASVAB and not have to take that. So-
Yeah, and that was when you and me are talking, that was way before the accountability
yeah.
piece stepped up like it did. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I agree with you. Did I leave anything out, Dr. Bird? Is that, okay, I didn't? All right. Any other questions? All right.
If there are no other questions, do we have a motion to approve Dr. Combs' wish to have a
I'll make a
CTE
motion.
director?
I beat you to it.
Did you?
And,
Second.
I will, you.
Mr. Shipley has made a motion, and Mr. Clark is seconded. Is there any additional discussion before we vote on it? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passed.
Thank you all. And I'll have more information to come as we get, you know, develop the position statement and all that kind of stuff.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Dr. Bird, Director of Instruction report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things tonight. I want to start with our American Fidelity Teacher of the Month. This year we have Miss Melanie Avant, who teaches sixth grade math at Munford Middle School, and she was nominated by her principal, Dr. Yolanda Jones, who Dr. Jones has already recognized, who's in our audience tonight. I want to take a minute just to share with you what Dr. Jones wrote about Miss Avant in her nomination. It's an honor to nominate Miss Melanie Avant for Teacher of the Month. Miss Avant is a great asset to Munford Middle. She truly exemplifies a teacher who is committed and dedicated to the education field. She goes above and beyond to ensure she provides high-quality instruction to all of her students. I can't say enough about Miss Avant, and I'm delighted to submit this nomination on her behalf. So at this time, Miss Avant and Mr. Grant Skelton will come forward, and we'll present her with her award. So congratulations to Miss Avant. Thank you. Did not have to give a speech, and that she could leave when we were done.
Was I supposed to do something? I'm
No speech. Secondly, due to increasing demand for support in ELA as we continue to address reading and learning across the district and at all grade levels, we would like to add an additional reading instructional coach for the 22-23 school year. And that position will be an 11-month position if you all approve it, budgeted using Title II federal funds, so not coming from the general budget. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to request a motion to approve that new position, unless someone has questions, of course.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this position?
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Clark, second by Ms. Proctor. Are there any questions to Dr. Byrd? Those in favor, aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passed.
Great, thank you.
What'd you call that again, Dr. Byrd?
I'm sorry,
What'd you call that position again?
reading instructional coach.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. In today's paper, I don't know if you've seen it yet, perhaps you have, we have a student who attends Brighton Middle School. His name's Jonathan Kelly, and recently he participated in the Titans Spelling Bee at Nissan Stadium, and he got second place in the state. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we're very proud. And as a result of that, he will be competing in the National Spelling Bee. So that's coming up, so if you hadn't had a chance, make sure you check that out in today's Covington League.
Where's the national gonna
I'm assuming it's in Washington, but honestly, I do not know. But I think that's where it is. Sorry. I did read the article, but I'm not sure it said that. All right, the next thing I have is we're having our retiring personnel, I guess, retirement reception, May the 5th, from 3:30 to 5 at the Covington Civic Center. I think you have an invitation in your packet tonight, so I just wanted to verbally let you know about that and tell you that you're all invited, and we would love to have you attend if you're available. So May 5th, 3:30 to 5, Covington Civic Center. We're doing it a little differently this year. We're excited about that. Perhaps as you were coming in, you noticed on the board that our CTE students represented Tipton County very well. Recently, I've already switched it over because Hunter's about to give his presentation, but I'll put it back up when he's finished. We recently had state competitions that you all approved all their travel, so thank you for doing that. But our CTE programs, I can't say enough about it. If you've ever visited, they do phenomenal things, and we're very, very proud of all of our teachers and students. But I do want to highlight that this past Monday night, our 3 high school ag programs were all recognized for their overall ag programs. And in West Tennessee, this was a West Tennessee awards night, Monday night, there are 45 ag programs. And of those 45, Munford High School placed first, Covington High School placed second, and Brighton High School received 9th place. So we certainly want to congratulate all of CTE, but that was specifically for ag. And just thank Harvey Witherington, does an amazing job, and he would tell you it's because of his teachers. And we just appreciate all they do. The teachers work extremely hard. So congratulations to all of those teachers and students. And then the last thing I have, I promise. Tonight, Miss Nina Macris is here. She is one of our counselors, and she recently attended the SCOPE conference with some of our students, and I think only one of our high school students was able to come tonight, but they're going to come up and tell you just a little bit about the experiences that they had at SCOPE, and that concludes my report with it.
Dr. Byrd,
Oh, sorry.
Munford High School has received that award many times. Did you have any idea how many
Oh, gosh, I don't know, but I bet Ann Johnson can tell
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I will, I'll send Dr. Fee a text, and if she texts me before this meeting's over, I'll let you know.
I will say, my understanding is they're ranked nationally, like Norfolk High is a national
You know,
ranking.
I was at Brighton High School for a presentation on that hydro.
Hydroponics?
Right, that's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
It
She did an
is.
absolutely great job, and I learned so much, you know, and everybody was so interested, and she just did such a great job. you
And
know.
that lettuce tastes amazing too.
It
Yeah, it's awesome.
My grandchildren, Ronnie Proctor and Andrea, they were really high in state.
Yeah, we're very proud.
High school.
Yeah.
Well, we're very proud of our CTE program, and you guys put money into it. Every time we ask for money for our CTE programs, you're always willing to budget that in, so thank you for your leadership and support of CTE. Macris.
All right, hello.
Hello.
I'm Nina Macris, I'm the sophomore counselor at Brighton High School, but I also do the scope field trip, and we kind of rotate every 3 years. It'll be my turn. This year we had 6 great candidates to go from each high school. This is Lizzie, who also was just on the board for being first place at a HOSA competition for nursing assistant, is that correct? So, really great. So yeah, they're great students. I think most of them had to work tonight because they're very involved. But this year, it's normally at MTSU, but this year it was at Belmont, which if you've ever seen Belmont, it's absolutely gorgeous. So we kind of changed it up. We did some retro bowling and stuff the night before, and then the next day they go to the competition and they debate certain issues. So this year it was, should you have to buy a parking pass? Should you be able to leave campus for lunch? Year-round school uniforms, I think those were the 4, and then they're placed on teams, and then they're either for or against, and then they have to debate, and then the whole conference votes based on their how they present it. So it's really neat to see how even the students are aware of economic issues and fairness and bullying that can come with everything from being able to drive your car to can you afford a uniform. So it was very enlightening, and I'm glad it was at Belmont this year because we actually got to watch it. But anyway, you want to say anything?
It was really cool because when we broke up into our smaller groups, so I think I was in a group 13 or something, and I was a senior. So they put all the seniors in the same group because they were also looking for a scope leader.
Right, so
For
they put the
next year?
seniors in the higher group, so the younger groups could vote for officers.
yeah,
at
being
the
able to
next
do
year.
it.
So, right.
So, I never knew what a school board meeting looked like, but we did a mock one in our little groups, and we had all the districts and the chairman. It was kind of cool. But we debated about detention and opportunity to be a parent.
So did y'all do away with detention?
Well, it was, should it be a form of punishment? And I talked, because I go to Brighton, and a lot of the times, and I work as an attendance, in the attendance office, so I write people up every other day for getting tardies. And, a lot of the times, they don't care. They don't care that they have detention. They sit there for an hour, they get on their phone, depending on who the teacher is, and they go home. So that's just what they said, that there's a better way to punish it. But it was, really cool to see the other kids from Tennessee, how their school dealt with detention. There was some school they had a really low population, but they made the kids clean the bathrooms if they had detention. They really made them not want to have
And
detention anymore.
what you said, one school allowed that it had 30-something tardies with no punishment or something.
They could get 30 warning
Yeah.
tardies. We get 1. your second tardy, late to school or late to class, detention.
Absolutely.
I think your 8th one is ALT.
But it's a huge variety from
Yeah.
East Tennessee to Nashville, and I think that some of them were on their spring break, so they didn't get to come. But you can really see how different it is just from county to county, and you can tell the different populations. But
And it was nice to meet the people from the other schools too, the Mumford County.
yeah, I think the bowling really helps you guys with the team building and stuff. We had a good time. It was a retro place right down by the river, and you could see Titan Stadium, and we came out to the sunset, and I was like, y'all post all those pictures so those other kids will be jealous of them.
So what was your stance on year-round schooling? Did you debate, which side of that did you debate?
Which one did we do?
Even if you can't, what's your opinion? Right here on the spot in front of everybody, what do you think about?
Absolutely not. No, I don't think any of the
That didn't, not even, no pause or anything. She just went right
They
at
did
it.
say that you shouldn't have to pay for parking pass. Wasn't that the one that didn't pass? I think. It was interesting though, the reasons why, but.
I think we did the one where, like, we were debating whether or not we could leave for lunch.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a good one too.
So I think
Yeah.
we were.
And one girl said, we already do leave for lunch. Like, she didn't know how to not.
Yes, we did.
It was good though. It was very eye-opening. We had a ball and Belmont was beautiful. And
Leave for lunch every day.
any y'all questions? Anything? Thanks for letting us go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Hunter Bennett, you're next. I overlooked you, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'll take it when I get a chance. Thank y'all for having me. So if you hadn't been around the county or driving up down Highway 51, obviously you may not have noticed all the excitement in Brighton. But we want to start with all of the fun stuff happening in Brighton. We actually will. We'll start with Brighton Middle School. So the roof project there, guys, is almost complete. We do have details to go back and the metal trim out downspouts and things. We are lacking there. A couple of details, but as you can tell, that roof will be much more energy efficient. And I promise you, the accommodations of the teachers and the appreciations of not having to chase trash cans. I know I keep mentioning that, but it keeps resurfacing every time we do a new roof. These teachers are experiencing it for the first time, so I know the appreciations are coming. They don't really understand until it's there that they don't have to watch the weather to see how they're going to conduct class. It's very appreciated. So thank you guys again from the teachers for letting this project take place. Again, another one, Covington High School, we're in the middle of it. The challenges here are we're about to try to continue a project through TCAP. But we do have a good plan to keep production going without interrupting the classrooms and noises. I met with McLean and Price as far as what areas we need to stay away from, and I feel like we've got a pretty good plan for next week, so we don't lose production with having very nice weather to work. So,
Is the VOTEC building getting done too?
it is. The VOTEC building is actually not only getting completed, but it's getting all new units.
Oh,
So the VOTEC is actually getting the most of all of the area of Covington High School. As you can tell over there on the far left corner, of course, where the football field is, but the homeschool gym is currently got a new roof over all of it. We do have some details to finish up there, but the gutters and downspouts were installed yesterday, the downspouts today. I know all of those, especially Coach Coley, is greatly appreciating the new roof. I met with her today. Of course, lists don't ever really go away, they just change. So hopefully we can update the inside with some purple paint, which she reminded me.
There you go. And let me throw this in, Hunter. So we went up there the other day. Coach Coley, I don't think I've ever seen her and she didn't say, "Hey, look, I got a question." And she did. She's like, "Hey, this is all. Thanks." I mean, that was it. I said, "Are you sure you don't have a question?" But no, she just. I mean, they're happy about what's going on.
And they're very thankful. I mean, she reminds me of when she started here, which was in '96. And how grateful she is of the things that are taking place. And so, of course, that's countywide. But Covington High School here with the roof project moving along. And then we moved to the spring break project that we accomplished at Crestview Elementary and CIAA, where we tackled the toilet closets in the kindergarten classrooms, where we didn't have to deal with as many products as petitions and paper towel holders and things of that nature. So, but it went well, and again, those teachers are very appreciative of. As you can see there, we put the hands-free flush valves on the toilet, so they are no longer little kids. They won't walk out and forget. So we'll take care of that for them. Now to obviously what's the big talk, at least whenever I go around, what's going on with the turf. So Brighton is all but done. I mean, we're actually are scheduling our turnover meeting for this coming week. The field turf company has requested Tuesday. Don't know if that's going to work for us because we want to make sure that we have all the representatives that would potentially be using this field available, so they'll know what the conditions are, what we expect out of all the participants. It's a very durable field, but we do have some different guidelines that will be expected out of this. But guys, if you hadn't gone by, please do, and if you got a chance, walk out on it. We don't offer that to the full public. Probably correct you.
Unless you're wearing spike heels. then
Yes,
they don't
yes.
work out.
Right, so, but it is a beautiful field. This is what Brighton High School looked like as of 6 o'clock, our last meeting. And then backing up, this is what we are at this meeting. So as you can tell, there's not been much idle time.
Just for some clarity, what all sports are getting to play? We're getting to do soccer, football?
Soccer lines are on it, and you can't, I actually had somebody on Twitter, I think, ask me that question. And from that aerial view, it's hard to see them, but that's the whole point. The soccer lines are silver. So when you're on the field, I mean, it's easy to see them. I was out there today walking around, man, they look great.
Okay.
But when you're sitting up in the stands or further away, you just see the football field. That's right. So there, of course, band's gonna be marching on it, they'll have practice on it.
Middle school football?
Middle school football will be on it. Yep.
And guys, after the rain yesterday, I talked to Coach Kirby, which he doesn't have turf, which you'll see here in a moment. But and even after that big rain that came through, he walked on the field before 7 o'clock this morning. And he said, if I wouldn't have known where to look and what shade of the gravel would have been, he said, I mean, you would have never known that it rained. So, again, a lot of excitement there. Mumford here, picture on the top is where we were a month ago at this meeting. The picture on the bottom, sorry that it's not a full panoramic, but that is what we look like as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. So, again, it's a lot of hard work is going in. These guys, I mean, just literally, as long as it's not raining, these guys are on the field working. I mean, so I'm very appreciative of the commitment that they have to our graduations taking place when they're supposed to. And this is the Covington field as of this afternoon. Again, their goal is to, as a matter of fact, I'm meeting a truck tomorrow afternoon, the turf installation company. They're bringing in a second installation company that they have available to Covington so they can go ahead and begin this one or not this coming week, but the following week. But they'll already be set up, equipment's on site for them to be able to start this coming week, the following week. So again, just in a matter of less than 2 weeks, you're gonna see turf rolling out there, and with the production that they've showed over the other end of the county, I mean, it'll be very fast. So,
And what about the track?
so the track projects we are putting on, we're gonna start those after graduation. We've just got way too many irons in the fire, and logistically, I think we'd be creating a nightmare to try to squeeze that in. And plus the cure time on a lot of that, we would be pushing the envelope really hard to try to hit that. But and if you guys have looked at any of these fields with the new turf, I mean, I think the tracks are gonna be just as exciting as the turf is whenever you look at them from above. I mean, it's gonna be very nice facilities. But I do want to share the appreciations for the Mumford Middle School and Mumford Elementary for allowing and cooperating with our summer school requests to allow us to move through those bathroom projects. I did pose that request and it was welcomed. Again, I think it just goes back to show how much these teachers are, and the administration is excited about getting the bathrooms, updated. And Dr. Cope and Ms. Jones for allowing us to interrupt their routine for the schedule for the summers to just push through and make so we can try to accomplish as much in a short period of time as we do. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Hey, Hunter, one more quick. Will you give them an update? So this summer, the plan is to knock out how many?
Our summer school schedule is Mumford Elementary, Mumford High School, Truman's Elementary, and to complete the remaining part of Covington High School. If everything goes smooth and we see the capacity will allow us to take on some other bathrooms, then we will. But that is our firm, we've got to complete, this has got to be complete. So hopefully what'll happen is with Mumford Elementary being completely available for us, where we can work around the clock pretty much without any interruptions. And then Mumford High School, for the most part, it's going to be pretty much wide open as well. I mean, Dr. Fee has agreed to work very closely, work with us to isolate the summer school students to certain areas where we can really come through and hopefully operate like we are at Mumford Elementary. But she has such a large school with so much going on, just to completely shut her doors completely, it's going to be quite a bit of request. But, so those 4 schools, if everything does go smoothly, then we will take on another school. At that point, I would probably pick a Brighton location. Brighton Elementary would actually be the one that we would come into, and it might be the toilet closets that we were accomplished. We just have to make that as we see how many days we're late, we can get accomplished.
And then we'll be doing fall break, Christmas break.
Yes, we
Thanksgiving
will
break.
stay on the fall break, Christmas break, spring break schedule. Those have proven to be very beneficial. So we don't get to the tail end of the ESSER grant funds and run out of days. So, we do plan to work on those smaller windows. And by the end, surely we'll have a system down where we know exactly what to expect, and hopefully we'll hit most of the speed bumps. And then on the HVAC side of things, we do plan to get that rolling very soon. In the process of working through some red tape as far as the products. But I really don't have a schedule per se for my HVACs as to when and where they're going to start. But looking back through some of the numbers, I mean, Drummond's Elementary, Mumford Elementary, and Mumford High School, I mean, they're about to get a bunch of new units. Drummond's Elementary and Mumford Elementary pretty much get all new units. So whenever you talk about efficiency, we will have Mumford Elementary, Drummond's, and Mumford High School will be a prototype as to what we could really expect to show as far as energy savings and what we really could show across the board for our buildings. I mean, they're going to be pretty much completed. So we will say, all right, so Drummond's and Mumford Elementary are here, and this is what their energy bill went from, not because we replaced 25% or 35% of their units, it's because we pretty much replaced all of them. And so that'll give us, I feel like it'll give us a good earmark as to what we can expect across the county if we continue with this progressive replacing things as necessary, and where we can be more efficient with our energy dollars. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Bennett?
Lights on baseball fields.
that we have secured, well, I don't have a date. I do have a firm PO, we have POs cut, it's executed. The lights going through the final production stages, they did hit a quality control roadblock. They sent them back to be reworked. I don't really know exactly what it had to do with the final lens. Obviously glad that they took care of it, found it there in production rather than on our fields. At the time, which was that 2 weeks ago maybe, so we should be expecting those available in the next 3 weeks. However, depending on when they're available, when they can come do the demo and do the installation, will be depending on whether we try to do any of that before graduation. Okay. Again, you got that graduation timeline that we're a little hesitant to.
Are we doing new lights on football too?
We are.
So football, baseball, softball, what else? That's it?
That's it.
We don't have to do soccer because they're gonna start playing on the field.
Right. And the thing about soccer is they all three have a field. So if they have to play day games, I mean, they can use their field. It's a regulation, they're nice fields, but night games for sure and whatever else, they can use the turf, or whenever it's available, they can use the turf field. But I mean, my full expectation is that we're gonna have all the lights up for football, baseball, and Brighton softball. We've talked about that. We're looking at reworking the two softball, the softball fields at Covington High and Mumford High, and then we'll put up the new lights there. But we fully expect those. Correct. We fully expect, we're still talking to Munford if they want to renovate the one they have or if they want to move it. But Covington's definitely moving theirs. It'd be moved over by the baseball field, right? But we're fully expecting to have all those lights up before school starts again next year. So that's the expectation.
Yeah.
If quality control doesn't stop them again, we'll have them up.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes, sir.
this is probably not a good question, but I don't know it, so it is for me.
I might not have a good answer.
Are they gonna replace the wood poles with the new lights?
From my understanding, the poles at all of our stadiums, or football stadiums, are all metal, right? They're all metal.
Right, talking about the baseball.
Not to my understanding, getting new poles.
I don't think so. I think they're gonna be the wood poles at baseball, so like we have now, but they're changing out like I don't know what you call the box, but not junction box, but the box that's on the pole will be down about 10 feet off the ground. So everything, like the brains of that thing, are gonna be close, so we don't have to get those big lifts anymore.
And then, of course, replacing everything up top. And I don't think the poles at the baseball and softball fields are gonna be replaced.
I haven't, I don't recall that being.
Yeah, I think it's just the lighting, the wiring, all
The
that
new-
kind of stuff.
The new softball lights that we put for the new fields, they do have new poles, obviously, because we don't have fields for those.
Right.
So that is part of the, but as far as the existing poles, not to my, I'm gonna say no. But one of the cool things about this LED light, all of what they call the troll points are located 10 feet right off the ground. Utility ladder from, our guys can very easily go out, but within our purchase agreement, they're able to remote, anytime there's a trouble, they get an email. The same email we get, we'll have somebody set up in our system that gets an email if there's an issue at all with those. They get the same email. So I guess it's who's gonna be the most, who can get to the phone the quickest to say, hey, how are we gonna go about this?
And they're gonna train our personnel.
And
to work
we're
on it.
training personnel here, to be able to go out and troubleshoot, to go out and take care of these, in the case that they can't get someone here in a timely manner.
Where are they coming from?
Good question. I don't know. I'll find out.
No, they're all over the place, but I know the group we met with the other day is from New York or something.
Yes, they were northeast.
Right, but they have stations everywhere else. That's one of the reasons they train satellite folk. Like, they'll train our maintenance guys to be able to do it, or at least troubleshoot small things. But they'll fly out and take care of it. It's part of the warning.
Smash doors.
We'll see.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Billy Daugherty. Financial report.
I had some beautiful panoramic pictures of some spreadsheets. But Hunter's presentation went out over mine, and I was gonna show you a picture of all the money that we're using to take care of that, but no, Hunter, I figured you were gonna see that.
My pictures are definitely more attractive.
I don't disagree. All right, good evening. So, we're gonna start, you should have a packet there. We'll start with the financial report, should be on top for the month ending March 31st. For the 141 general purpose school budget, you'll see highlighted in yellow the revenues and expenditures for the month of March. Revenues being 8.1 million, expenditures 6.8. The next page for the 142 federal projects budget, highlighted in yellow as well, 664,000 in revenues and a little over $1 million in expenditures. For the 143 central cafeteria, 1.2 million in budget and revenue, and then a little over $500,000 in expenditures. And last but not least, the capital projects budget, which is dwindling its way down. Mr. Bennett and them assured me that it's going to be expended by year's end as we intend. So we spent $5,300 in March, and we anticipate that balance to be gone by June 30th, or comfortably at least. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the report, unless there be any questions.
Do we have a motion to approve the financial report as presented? Motion by Mr. Vincent, second by Ms. Rozelle. Are there any questions about it? Those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passed.
All right, I'd like to move on next to budget amendments. You should have two sheets, one that's 141 and one that's 142. The 142 is the blue circle at the top. I was gonna put this, I failed you, Mr. Vincent, I was gonna put it on colored paper, but I received a phone call from the 80s because they were so happy they were getting their heating air units back from Drummond's. And I forgot to print it on that paper. But, so going over 141 here, if you'll flip over to page 2, at the very bottom, highlighted in orange, there is a reduction, and then if you'll go on to page 3, in corresponding color, or is where those funds are going. Those are all intra-fund transfers with no change to fund balance. Included in that, we had an emergency shelter in place for our HOSA and FFA children that were on a trip in the severe storms that came through Tennessee last week. And so we had to pay for them all to stay and feed them and pay for the buses. And so it created more money than Mr. Harvey's budget and CTE could afford. So we got to move some money to pay for that. And so that's where some of that's coming from. Next, you'll see highlighted in blue there on page 3 are some other adjustments that are moving down to, you'll have to flip over to page 4 to see the blue where they're going. Those again are some of those training money adjustments. for the CTE program. And in the yellow, what I did fail to mention to you all, I'll back up just one. We had to make some amendments in that yellow color, and you'll see there in the textbooks. We spent more money this year on textbooks than we had anticipated because of the use of some consumables that we've had to buy to replenish our supplies. And so that's what the other part of that budget there is. The third thing there in green on page 3 at the bottom, we're just making some adjustments for employees we've hired that chose different insurance plans, and retirement plans. We just had to make some adjustments there that we didn't anticipate at the start of the year. We'll go past all the blue there on 4. And getting over to page 6 of 11, you'll see blue again. That is where all the money we saw in blue at the beginning is being put into the budget. That is the CTE vocational education budget, and that is going in there again to pay for those expenses that were incurred. In addition to moving some money around for the end of the year trips that some of these clubs that have progressed are going to be taking. On page 7 in green, you'll see highlighted there that is also a wash, no change to the balance of that account. It's just intra-fund transfer to accommodate payment for some audit services and different expenses. The other thing you'll see in some of these budgets are the addition of a line item 599, which the comptroller's office is requiring now that we didn't have previously. So we're starting to put the expenditures in the appropriate places for the auditor. So we've added some 599s. You've seen that. You'll see that in the next round of amendments as well. 72,320 in purple. You'll see some adjustments there, and that is all intra-fund adjustments just to cover overages in some accounts using the surplus in other accounts. And that concludes the amendments for 141. There's no change to fund balance, Mr. Chairman. It's all intra-fund transfer, just trying to clean up some things for the end of the fiscal year. I anticipate I'll be back next month with some more just to kind of finalize things. But for the time being, that is the 141 budget amendment.
Do we have a motion to approve the amendments as presented? Motion by Mr. Clark, second by Ms. McClurkin. Are there any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to the 142, the blue circle at the very top of the page. We're going to cover 6 different grant amendments. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take those up separately, if we may. So the first round is going to be, let me see what color we got here for the first round. Let's flip over to the back there. Some of them overlapped, so the colors I had to use were the same, so I apologize. We were dealing with some of the same line items. So let's start with the yellow. So inside all the yellow colors on page 3 of 5, you'll see yellow. And then you'll see some more yellow on page 5 of 5. Those are adjustments to the original year's appropriations from the federal projects. Those are just house cleaning items that are no change to fund balance, no change to programs, just adjustments to the original appropriation.
We need a motion on that, right?
Yes, sir, please.
We have a motion to approve that. Motion by Mr. Davidson, second by Mr. Shipley. Any questions? In favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
The next revision we're going to take up is the Carl Perkins revision number 1, and that is going to be on page 5 of 5, and that's going to be in the purplish blue color. And so those are some adjustments also just inside. It's a total of $5,936.68 worth of adjustments throughout the 73,300. If we could just take those up, that's all we have for that particular grant, Mr. Chairman, for the Carl Perkins revision number 1.
Do we have a motion to approve this? Motion by Ms. Proctor, second by Mr. Clerk. In favor, are there any questions first? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passed.
Carl Perkins revision number 2, same color, no change to fund balance, all intra-fund transfer adjustments as well. Inside those same coloring schemes that we just looked at.
Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Clark. Second by Mr. Davidson. Any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
The next revision is IDEA revision number 3, and I'm gonna go ahead and mention IDEA revision number 4. They're two separate ones, so for two separate votes, Mr. Chairman, but they affect each other. And so you'll see highlighted in green, on page 2, as well as the green on page 4. That accommodates both IDEA revisions, in each of those budgets. So if we could take the amendment for IDEA revision number 3, which totals $58,660, inside that inter-fund transfer.
Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Rozelle, second by Ms. McClurkin. Any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
And IDEA revision 4, which you will see in that color scheme as well. It was for the $56,400 that was moved inter-fund transfer, no change to fund balance as well.
Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Davidson, second by Ms. Proctor. Are there any questions? In favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion passed.
Lastly, the 21st Century Community Learning Grants, which you'll find on page 505 under the 73,300. Those are just some revisions to that grant as well, and no changes to fund balance. That closes out those grants, all those grants being made by the federal authorities on how to adjust the money. Last one, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to approve this? Motion by Mr. Schiffler, second by Ms. Proctor. Are there any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
No, opposed, no. Motion passed.
I'll do better on my color choice of paper next time. Get us back on track. All right, so the next thing, I was so excited. I've stayed up many nights recently, so excited about my first budget presentation to the school board in my 9-month tenure here. So I want to go over a couple of things with you because it's not always as exciting as we thought. But first of all, let me back up just one time. I want to take this up with the board. In our capital projects that we're doing, we're obviously shopping vendors and everything, and we're purchased a lot of things from cooperatives. I'd like to get the board's approval tonight. I think, from what I understand, in days gone by, this board and the county commission has previously approved the Omnia Purchasing Cooperative, OMNIA. In previous days, Mr. Bennett, it was known as the what?
U.S. Communities.
U.S. Communities Purchasing Cooperative, since changed names. Ms. Gaither at the clerk's office has been gracious. She's trying to help me search through the minutes to find the resolution, thinking that it's already been passed. In the event that it has not been passed, I wanted to skip a bunch of time lapse and go ahead and ask this board tonight, if you would approve us to be a part of that purchasing cooperative. If we don't find the resolution, we intend to take it to the county commission for approval.
Okay, y'all heard the request. Do we have a motion? Motion by Ms. McClurkin, second by Ms. Proctor. Are there any questions about it? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, moving to the budget. You should have a letter from Ms. Cindy Smith. Ms. Cindy Smith is our fiscal representative for the state of Tennessee Department of Education for our federal projects funds, the federal money. So she's the one that we work with closely on a weekly basis that provides us the information, oftentimes these revisions you just voted on. And so for the benefit of those that are watching, I'm going to read out loud what she has written to me this week because we depend on her to set our budget, to know how much money we're getting. So we don't know that yet. And so this is what she wrote to me this week. She says, Mr. Doherty, I'm aware that budgets are due for most local education agencies in May. However, the fiscal year 23 preliminary allocations for federal funds are not yet available, and local education agencies do not receive their first fiscal year 23 BEP estimate until mid-April. We have still not received it as of today, therefore we cannot allocate our budget properly. Following the initial estimate, LEAs will receive a May estimate, a June estimate, and a July final allocation. Please let me know if I can assist with any questions or concerns.
So that means they're not gonna know till July.
Well, what it means is they're gonna give us some information this month, and I'll make an adjustment in the budget based on that prediction. They'll come back to us in June with more specific numbers. As the school year closes, I'll make adjustments again with Director Bailey, and then they'll come back again in June after the May one. So April, we got April, the first one, May the second one, June's the third one, and then July's the final one, which the budget is passed by July. I would come back to this board for adjustments if it would happen after the budget was passed. So all that to say, you're saying, well, why don't you present the budget? Because you don't have anything to present, because you don't know what your money is. Well, that's what's next in your packet. Tipton County in 2017 passed a private act known as the Tipton County Budget and Fiscal Procedure Act, which requires by statute the Tipton County Board of Education to submit their budget to the Budget and Accounts Director by May 1st. So I have to prepare a budget, even though it's not the right budget and it's not the correct numbers, I have to submit something statutorily to the Budget Director. Now, Mr. Bailey is aware of this statute. Obviously, it covers his position as well in this act. And so that is why tonight I'm going to present you with a budget. It's in red because those numbers are going to be changing quite a bit. And so basically what we've done, because the state, this is the recommendation of our fiscal agent, is basically to duplicate our last year's projected expenditures and revenues into this first initial budget. So what you're seeing today on these three budgets is the same thing this board approved last year for us to operate on this year. Now, as they make adjustments for our per pupil expenditures and our average daily membership, so we can get our numbers through the BEP, maybe, which may be the last year we use that funding formula, then we will know more again in April. So I'll report back to this body in May's meeting, what I've been told, and then of course again in June. And so I don't know exactly when Dr. Combs and I will present our budget to the full, or to the Finance Committee lastly, but you all obviously will see it before then. And we'll pass a budget at some point, and then we'll revise it if needed in July or August. So with all that being said, the middle column you'll see is where our revenues and expenditures were as of March the 30th, the month we just, well, as of March 30th, not March 31st, because that's when I was closing the books, or preparing to close the books. But there are all the figures in red on the right basically are duplications of what the 2021 appropriations were. There's some highlights in there because the only adjustment I have made to the budget that I know we're not going to get is we had a program with Medicaid in our special education program, which we're no longer carrying through to the next fiscal year, and that revenue's been taken out of the budget, which means the expenditures had to be adjusted to account for that. You'll see some highlights in yellow, but other than that, that's what that means, and that's just for my own personal note. So, Mr. Chairman, 141 preliminary budget, as you'll see indicated on all three of those. They're all preliminary, waiting for the funding to be made available through the state. And if there are questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Is this year gonna be affected by the BEP overhaul, or is that gonna be, when I say this year, I mean obviously 22, 23? This budget.
Fiscal year 22-23, what we're anticipating the biggest hit is Governor Lee in his address said that he was going to give $125 million to education for teacher raises. And so that would be in this budget, but that's not passed the legislature to my knowledge. Correct. It is still there. And so that's going to affect how we do the budget, obviously. And then how they're going to allow us to disperse that across the personnel, because you all know we operate with more personnel than the BEP funds to begin with. So that'll have to be adjusted, and then we have a whole host of support staff to help us run this whole organization.
But they haven't completely restructured how the BEP works.
No, sir, not yet.
That's 23-24.
That's 23-24. That's when TISA
If
will take over.
if it passes.
If it passes.
Which it's got momentum, I'm thinking it probably will, but when that passes, it'll be 23-24. Next year will be our next year with the current BEP formula. I mean, next year will be our last year with the current BEP funding formula. Yes, sir.
Now,
I'm doing a bad job of asking.
And allow me to say this, we, Dr. Combs and I, and along with other officials, have been to many trainings on this new TISA formula, which is always interesting because you sit through a class that's about an hour or two, and at the end of it, they say, all that may not matter if this doesn't pass, right? But I can tell you definitively, I've sat in the room with superintendents from all across the state and other finance officials, and nobody knows TISA and its effect on the system better than Dr. Combs, in my opinion. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but I've talked to him regularly, so I consider him the resident expert, and I'm gonna lean on him heavily for my first year of doing the budget under the new TISA formula as well, so shout out to him for that. So if you have TISA questions, what I'm saying is, would you ask Dr. Combs first? And,
I didn't want to get into the weeds of that, I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna. When I asked the question about not knowing until July, I was under the assumption that everything was changing this year But that, okay,
It's
so we
all
kinda
been
have a
in
pretty good
service.
idea what we're
Right.
We think so, just depending on the funding.
Do we have a motion to approve the, preliminary budget as presented by Mr. Daugherty? Motion by Ms. Proctor, second by Ms. Rozelle. Are there any other questions? For the preliminary, so.
Preliminary, yes, sir. You gotta do it by statute. I don't wanna go to jail. I've been there. It's not fun.
So, if there are no questions, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.
Can I throw one thing in there?
Yes, sir.
So I know he touched on this, but the 125 million that the governor has proposed or put out there, said, this could be used for teacher raises, whatever. We've even called, I know we spoke to a couple people at the State Department. I know I have, Mr. Daugherty has as well, and said, look, we got a budget coming up. I mean, what's on the radar here? Are we gonna get you this money? How's that gonna look? Whatever. And no one has an answer, because the answer is it hasn't passed, through the legislature yet. So we don't have anything to tell you. But obviously, here in front of the good board and everybody, I want to know when we get that money's going to be spent on raises. That's what that money's for. I mean, there's nothing else planned for it. We just have to figure out how much based on how much we get.
If you took 125 million and divided it by every teacher in the state, what would it be?
Oh, shoot.
How many you gonna have?
I don't know. Good question.
A lot of them.
Well, and then there are also, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in there, because we've talked about this too. Here's another wrench that was tossed in there. There's at least one piece of legislation that, again, has not passed, that says that money has to be spent on classroom teachers. So, we're watching that bill as well, because if that passes, as well as this other, then we're going to have to regroup and figure out, because we want to give everybody a raise. So if we spend that money on just classroom teachers, we need to figure out a way that we can give support staff and everybody else some more money too. So we'll just have to figure out.
Next year. I mean, I know we're struggling and we just did it, but
Yeah.
we want to actually have some.
Oh yeah. Well, and I talked to the bus drivers today. It'd be nice to give them a little bit more too. Right? Yeah. It adds up.
I think there's a new pay schedule coming out for nurses too, and I don't know if that's passed yet or not.
It is, and that's if you have in-house nursing, if I'm understanding it correctly. Since we contract with Labonner right now, it wouldn't necessarily affect us because it would, because we're contracting those. But we'll see what that looks like as well. And I'll say this in front of everybody too. That contract from Labonner, I love having those Labonner nurses. They're amazing, amazing. Can't say enough about them. But at the same time, that contract goes up every year. So, we have other people that are wanting to bid on that nursing contract, including our local hospital. So, it may be at some point that we're gonna look at that, and we may have something to present to show some other bids there as well. Again, I'm saying this for everybody, we love Labonner. They're fantastic. They've done everything in the world for us. They're fantastic. But, when we're looking at it, we may have some other folks that want to bid as well. I mean, it's a free market. So we'll see.
May and June.
Sir?
Every year.
Every year, yes, sir. Every year they give us we have a contract with them. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to thank Mr. Copeland, Commissioner Murphy, and Commissioner Schultz for being here tonight. They're in attendance tonight.
Thank y'all. Thanks for being here.
Anything else?
No, sir. I did want to, real quick, I had to pull up on my phone and then I got lost in the moment and forgot it here. Let's see. I just want to run through our 3 graduation dates. I know y'all probably already know these, but just let me throw them out there for everybody. So May the 19th is Brighton High School graduation. May the 20th is Munford High School graduation. And May the 23rd is Covington High School graduation. All those graduations will take place on turf. So we have been meeting with principals. They're going to send out information to their kids. Again, there are some things that are going to need to be done a little bit differently because we're going to take care of that field. So, but it's basically, no spike teals, that kind of stuff. We're going to do that. We'll probably process off of the field. When they graduate, we'll process off the field and everybody can do the high fives and handshakes and hugging and chest bumps and everything off the field. So everybody doesn't converge on the field. And this year, another reason that we, didn't push for the tracks, not to mention, it's gonna be kind of rough to get all that done, was, it'll give us another year to plan on exactly how that's gonna look next year, because you can walk all over that track right now.
Correct.
Because we haven't done anything to them. But, then we'll have some planning for next year, because they will eventually be a short fence around that track, all the way around it. So, we'll make sure we plan that way. But, no, we're looking forward to it.
We've got Poncho's taking care of all the security and. making
Yes,
sure
sir. The schools actually do that, but, now that we have, Poncho with us, he's definitely gonna play a hand in
Yeah.
that. Yes, sir.
So we'll make sure.
Yes,
we got
sir.
Plenty of folks there.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have anything?
They're not adjusting any times, last year, did you split the times, so everything will be the same, or is that something each school will decide?
The plan right now is for everything to be one ceremony. Yes, ma'am. That's the plan right now. I haven't heard differently. Have you, Dr. Bird? I haven't either. I think the plan is to have one ceremony. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If nobody else has anything, we'll have a motion to adjourn.